Hey everyone, we've got to talk about Texas. Boy, I woke up mad this morning. I'm sure many of you did too. I want to talk about a couple scenarios as it relates to this undoing of Roe v. Wade in Texas. Two different scenarios I want to talk to you today about, and then I want to talk to you about the outcome of those two scenarios and some possible angles to this whole debacle, this whole ripping away of women's rights and women's autonomy. Scenario number one, a young girl grows up in an abusive household where her father is raping her from a very young age. She gets pregnant. Let's say this ban, and it's going to, gets implemented across the country in different states, and so that it gets harder and harder and harder. There's only a handful of states in which you can have an abortion. So this young girl who's been abused by her father her whole life ends up pregnant by her father. Incest and rape. She can't have an abortion. She has to carry this child of incest and rape. She's young, 12 or 13 years old. She has nowhere to go. What's she going to do? And this is the thing a lot of people may not understand. When you're brought up in a family, in a system of abuse, sometimes that's like the only thing you know. And you don't even, it's getting a little different where it's talked about more. But it's, what's a 12 or a 13-year-old girl gonna do? She's scared. This is the life she knows. Now she's pregnant. So she has a baby. It's a girl. Guess what's going to happen to that baby girl? What do you think is going to happen to that baby girl? And it's completely naive to think that that young baby girl that's going to be raped and molested and abused her whole life, it's naive to think that she's not going to stay in that house, since the first girl stayed in that house. So the new baby girl, the granddaughter, oh my God, yeah, of the abuser, is also going to be abused. The 12 or 13-year-old girl is stuck in this system of abuse. Now she's got a baby. So even if she did dream of leaving, now she's got a baby. That brings me to scenario number two. We have a young woman, in her 20s, 30s, actually doesn't matter how old she is. She's in an abusive relationship, a severely abusive relationship. Physically abusive, sexually abusive, emotionally and mentally abusive and manipulative. She can't get out. She wants to get out. She dreams of getting out. Every time she leaves, he hunts her down and he beats her worse. Threatens to kill her if she leaves. She never wanted to have a baby with this guy, so she went on the pill. He found out and he took it away and beat her. So birth control isn't an option because he's manipulative and controlling. She ends up pregnant. And she has to have this baby. She couldn't even sneak off while he's at work now to not have the baby, which was her last hope. Her hopes of all hopes. God, I hope I don't get pregnant, but if I do, I can sneak off to a clinic while he's at work. Maybe. But now she can't. That option is gone. So like our first young lady, she is forced to have a baby she doesn't want. She has to carry a baby knowing that it's going to be born into this abusive life. So like the first girl, the second lady, she has a baby. The baby is born into an abusive house. She gets pregnant again. Now she's got 2 kids. She gets pregnant again. She's got 3 kids. Her dreams of escaping this abusive relationship dwindle. If it was hard to leave when she had no kids, how is she going to leave with 2 kids or 3 kids or 1 kid? Now the stakes are higher for this guy. He's a father. You leave and I'll kill you. You leave and I'll kill our kids. I'll hunt you down. You know I will because I've done it before. She is now trapped in this abusive relationship, exponentially more so than she was trapped before. because she's got mouths to feed. She can't work because he won't let her. She's got to stay home and take care of the kids. The only money she has is what he brings home, and he controls it. She is trapped. These kids are trapped. Even if the guy doesn't beat the kids, they are being raised in a house where they're seeing their mother get beat. And if they get beat, 30% of all kids who are abused end up being abusers. So by preventing women from taking control of their own bodies, you are propagating a system of abuse. You are creating more abusers. Those two scenarios, let's dig a little bit deeper into this issue. We've got two young women now who are burdened by children they didn't want. And in both cases, they weren't allowed to give them up for adoption because their abusers wouldn't let them. So they are burdened by children they didn't want. They are burdened by pregnancies that were forced upon them in both situations. They did not want to be pregnant. They did not even want to have sexual relations with the men they had sex with who raped them. And now they're burdened by all these kids. A woman with kids is less likely to go to college, is less likely to learn a skill. Women who are burdened by a lot of children are destined to women who have all these kids, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy to go to school, to learn a skill. Guess what? If they ever do break free, when this little 12-year-old breaks free of her father someday, and the woman who has this abusive husband breaks free of him someday, they have kids now to take care of. So they can't further their lot in life when they've got babies to take care of. So they're destined to perform minimum wage jobs. When you think that the majority of Americans support a woman's right to choose, and yet legislators are making laws taking this right away anyway, you gotta wonder what else is going on. What is this really about? Could it be that there are lobbyists, there are forces, there is a rich white male elite out there who likes having a big labor pool of minimum wage workers who will take any job for any pay because they don't have any other choices? I'm not like a conspiracy theorist that thinks that, this is all planned. Maybe it is. You gotta wonder though. The more we oppress women, the more we take away their autonomy and make them nothing more than vessels for babies, and the less we hold the men accountable, the more responsibility on the women, the less we make, the less opportunities we have, and the bigger the minimum wage pool we have of workers. That's one thing. The other part of this, in addition to creating a labor pool of desperate people who need jobs to feed their hungry babies, because the same people who are passing laws to control women's bodies are cutting food stamps and WIC programs and assistance to all these single mothers who are left to raise these kids that they didn't want maybe, and who were raped and got pregnant. Doesn't this trap women into abusive relationships? The 50s and 60s, well, before the 1970s, let's say, were really, really bad times for women. Women were abused and neglected and cheated on, and, women couldn't get loans or credit cards by themselves. They had to get husbands' permission for this and that. They were really, really rough times for women. Part of the reason the times were so rough for women is because they didn't have a lot of rights. Women couldn't do a lot of things. The less rights, the less autonomy, the less control over our lives and our bodies we have, the more reliant we are upon men. The more reliant we are upon men, the worse they can act. Right? Maybe that's what's really going on. Women have so many more rights and autonomy than we've ever had before, and we're making good choices for ourselves. And what do we have? We have little whiny men who can't fucking stand up, who can't man up, who can't be the good men we are now asking them to be in order to be with us. Yeah, no, we're not going to take your bullshit anymore. We're definitely not going to take abuse anymore. We're not going to take verbal abuse, physical abuse. We're not going to take cheating. You have to be a better man if you want to be with us. Or these men who are scared to death that strong women don't want them can make laws that make it harder for us to stand on our own 2 feet so that we have to settle. That might be a stretch. It might not be a stretch. Look at the Texas picture of the Texas legislator that's going around like this with their hearts, proud of themselves. 90% men, old white men. The established old white elite. But think about that. The more rights we take away from women, the less rights women have, the more willing or the more we have to settle. I mean, back in the day, they couldn't even get a house by themselves or a credit card. We're sliding back. We're sliding back. Finally, I want to leave you with one more thought. This picture of these Texas legislators who passed this disgusting law. Actually, there's so much here that I could unpack. The bounties on women, like a witch hunt. I mean, what could possibly go wrong with that? Right? Anybody remember the Salem witch trials? And does anybody else know who else, what other leaders in history have encouraged neighbors to spy on one another and report them to the state? Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, Mussolini. Is that the country we want to live in? That was a little bit of a sidetrack. The last thing I want to say, you know, these guys, heart, because it's supposed to be the heartbeat bill. It's not really a heartbeat, by the way. It's doesn't even have the heart valves yet. At 6 weeks, it doesn't even have the heart. The fetus doesn't even have the heart valves developed yet. It's like an electronic signal that they get. It's not a real heartbeat. So to say that we care about life, oh, the heartbeat. But we're going to force a woman, a 14-year-old girl, a 22-year-old woman, a 40-year-old woman who was raped to carry their rapist's baby. You can't say you have a heart. You can't say that you care about life. If you're going to force a woman to carry her rapist's baby. My thought is, maybe there's some attorneys out there. You know, I looked up the 8th Amendment a little bit. The 8th Amendment is about getting arrested and being punished for a crime and cruel and unusual punishment. There's got to be something there. I mean, isn't it cruel and unusual to force a woman who's been raped to carry a baby she doesn't want? How monstrous do you have to be to think that that is okay? That grown woman who has experienced probably the most traumatic thing she will ever experience in her life. So what? This little clump of cells that doesn't even have heart valves yet is more important than you. We have to fight. There's supposed to be a march in every state I saw, look up Women's March, womensmarch.org, I think it is. Look it up. There's going to be marches in October in every state. And I'm also going to put a link below. There is a fundtexaschoice.org. I'm going to put a link below. It's fundtexaschoice.org. They are an organization who are going to help women who need this service to go out of state. They will be paying the $10,000 penalties. So that's what I said before I noticed, of course, the people are already on it. They're going to help women go out of state, and they're going to pay the $10,000 penalty. So go ahead and donate to Texas, fundtexaschoice.org. I'll put a link below. March. Write to every single one of your representatives and your senators in Congress. We need to end the filibuster. We need this administration to put women's rights back on the table and back at the forefront. They need to be made into law. This is just another way to control women, to take us out of the workforce, to keep us minimum wage jobs, to keep us in bad relationships so that they don't have to do better on all levels. Individual men don't have to do better. Companies don't have to do better. Legislators don't have to do better. It's just another way to push us back. So do everything you can. Call your representatives. March. Donate. Do everything you can. Yeah, this is a lot. There's a lot in this video, but there's a lot to think about. But I want to hear about cruel and unusual. This seems cruel and unusual to me. I don't see how anybody... I don't understand. I don't understand. Sad day in America. I'll see you soon.